Today, I'm going to share with you some of my favorite things about living in the state of North Carolina, and I'm going to share with you some of the things I really don't like about living in North Carolina. These are all definitely things you want to know before you move here. First, let's start with the things that I love. The first thing I love about North Carolina is how small the state is, and when I say that, I mean how easy it is to get from one side of the state to the other side. And that is actually cool because there's so much to see throughout the state. If you get bored in your location, you can go just a little ways and it almost feels like you're in a different country. When I lived in Texas for a little while, it felt like I was trapped because it didn't matter how far you drove, it was just the same kind of landscape and it was just the same kind of heat. And we felt like we could never get out of there. But here in North Carolina, you can go just a couple of hours and you're in the mountains. Which leads me to the second thing that I love about North Carolina, how many amazing types of topography and climate there are throughout the state. I'm from Florida, and while there is some variation from one part of the state to another, let's be honest, there are palm trees and alligators pretty much throughout the state. In North Carolina, we've got mountains, we've got valleys, meadows and farmland, beaches and lakes, cities, suburbs, small towns, and even smaller towns, pretty much every different kind of landscape and lifestyle, and it's all condensed into a relatively small area. Try driving the length of California or Florida or Texas. It feels like it takes a month to get out of those states. But in NC, it takes 6.5 hours by car to get from Wilmington, which is on the coast, to Cherokee, which is the last town before you cross into Tennessee. Which takes me into point number 3, nature and outdoor activities. If you're particularly adventurous and you have some time and you want to see everything North Carolina has to offer up close and personal, you could hike the entire state on the Mountains to the Sea Trail, which is a 700-mile trail connecting the coast to the mountains. It takes about 3 to 4 months or a little faster if you bike or paddle the Neuse River section of the trail, which is in the Raleigh area and really beautiful. But the Mountains to the Sea Trail is a great way to see everything that North Carolina has to offer. Pirates and palaces. North Carolina is home to some pretty cool stuff. The infamous pirate Blackbeard called North Carolina home, and you can explore pirate history in several museums on the North Carolina coast. North Carolina is also home to the largest privately owned home in the United States. The Biltmore Estate is about as close to a castle as we get in the US. It's a chateau-style estate, and I am telling you, pictures do not convey the magnificence of this home. It is truly breathtaking. You cannot imagine how big it is just by looking at pictures. If you have the opportunity to see it in person, definitely go see it. You could spend all day on the grounds and gardens and not see everything there is to see. Another thing that I love about North Carolina is the great proximity to large East Coast cities. North Carolina is very centrally located to large East Coast cities. Whether driving or flying, it's easy to access other major metropolitan areas in the East Coast. Flights from North Carolina to New York City is an hour and a half, Miami is 2 hours, Washington, D.C. is an hour, and Atlanta is also an hour. If you want to drive, you can get to DC in about 4.5 hours and Atlanta in 6. Even New York City is accessible by car at 8 hours drive time if you don't want to fly. Now, let's move on to the things that I don't like so much. Hard to navigate cities. Okay, this is a love-hate relationship. Curvy roads are really beautiful, and especially with how green and pretty the landscape is here, they really are beautiful. But finding your way around a new place, it is so much easier when the streets are in grids. The center part of our cities are more grid-like, but for the most part, most of the roads you're going to drive on throughout North Carolina will not be due north or due east. You think you're heading in one direction, and you figure if you just keep going this way, you'll probably get where you're trying to go. Not in North Carolina. You're going to need a map. Where is the sky? We have a ton of trees in North Carolina. They are beautiful. Yes, that's a good thing, but that also means that we don't have a lot of big sky views that many people are used to in less densely wooded areas. Sometimes I really miss the big sky of Florida. I'm not suggesting we cut down all the trees by any means, although another negative is that the trees are all being cut down because of all the construction happening in North Carolina. Am I sounding conflicted? Do I want trees or sky? It's complicated. If you're from the city, we don't have it here. We do have cities in North Carolina. We have Raleigh and Durham, we've got Charlotte, Greensboro, and Winston-Salem. But if you're coming from New York, DC, Chicago, LA, this is not going to feel like a city to you. I mean, Raleigh is really just a few blocks. You can walk around the whole city in, I don't know, maybe an hour. The city is not the city, it's the city. I know you've heard about how wonderful the weather is, and it is wonderful. We do get a lot of nice weather here, but there's something that people aren't telling you. Who gets more rainy days, Seattle or Raleigh? You've probably heard about the hurricanes and the ice storms, and if you haven't, I definitely recommend that you have a generator if you move to North Carolina, because both summer and winter storms can cause power outages. The flooding from hurricanes causes trees to fall on power lines, resulting in outages that can leave you without power for extended periods. And ice storms can have a similar effect. The frozen precipitation falls on trees and large branches, weighing them down, and they eventually snap, hit the power lines, and cause outages. But the kind of weather phenomenon that a lot of people aren't talking about is this. We get a lot of rain in North Carolina. In fact, our rain totals significantly exceed rain in Seattle, Washington, which is known for how rainy it is. As a matter of fact, parts of North Carolina have 21% more rain than Seattle. Did you think of North Carolina as a rainy climate? If after all this craziness, if you're still interested in moving to North Carolina, you might be interested in this video comparing our two largest cities, Raleigh and Charlotte. And you might as well subscribe. I mean, you're here now and we've had fun, right? All you gotta do is click. We can be friends. So easy right there. Click.